the Barnstable Community Preservation Committee. I'll call the meeting to order. First, I'd like the members to introduce themselves, starting.
I'm Terry Duenas from West Barnstable. Terry Duenas from West Barnstable.
And I'm Deborah Converse. I represent the housing piece of the CPA, and I'm from Katuitt.
Tom Lee from Marston's Mill, representing the Conservation Commissions.
I'm Lindsay Council from Centerville, and I'm an at-large member.
Steve Robichaud from Barnstable Village, and I represent the Planning Board.
Thank you very much. Now we'll need a vote to open the public hearing. Ellen, will you call the roll? We did forget to introduce Ellen Swiniarski, our administrator. Oh, that's right. We're live, so we can just say, all members in favor of opening the public hearing?
Right.
Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
How about that?
There we go.
And can I just say something, Lindsay?
Certainly.
For people who are here, there are cookies and lemonade, if anyone wants them, that Ellen brought. I figure she went to all.
There we go.
Good.
All right.
Yay.
Love it,
They're good
love it.
cookies, too.
Perfect.
Yeah.
You're more than welcome. Okay, I'll read the notice of recording. This meeting of the Community Preservation Committee is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, the chair must inquire whether anyone else is recording this meeting and to please make their presence known. Seeing none, this is a public hearing, and we welcome your public comments on the needs, possibilities, and resources of the town as they relate to the following Community Preservation Act categories for the fiscal year 2026. Community housing, historic resources, open space, and recreation. And we do have a full copy of the draft Community Preservation Plan for fiscal year 2026 available for review on the Town of Barnstable website at the Community Preservation Committee link. So if you want to see that actual plan, it'll be up there for a while. We'll be tweaking it as a committee based on comments we get from you all. So if you'd like to do that, you can comment there and we'll get them in and consider them. We have a group of speakers as well that I'll announce. I'll be giving the Community Preservation Committee presentation. We have Mark Milne, Director of Finances, here. He'll be giving Community Preservation Fund financial update. We have Miss Pam Brown of the Federated Church, a volunteer who has done the Universalist Cemetery project. We have Mr. Paul Graves, Senior Project Manager at DPW. He'll be giving us an update on the Cape Cod Rail Trail Bikeway project. And we have Mark Marinaccio and Richard Ventrone to speak to the CPA-funded recreation projects. Having said all that, I'd like to open it up. Does anyone here who wants to have a public comment before we get going? They have something that they really want to share? Please step forward. Nobody hiding? Come on down. If you'd introduce yourself and let us know who you are.
Thank you. So thank you very much. My name is Kelly Grant. I am Director of Land Conservation at Barnstable Land Trust. And I just wanted to take this opportunity on behalf of the Barnstable Land Trust to express our appreciation to the town and to its residents for your continued support of the Community Preservation Act, acknowledging the vital role that this funding source plays in our community for investing in the protection of our drinking water quality, for protection of our ponds and our coastal waters, preserving community character, and providing opportunities for people to stay connected with the natural world. As many studies have shown, allocating funds towards the protection of our priority natural areas brings multiple financial and health-related benefits to the town and to its residents, and provides a significant return on investment. In addition, through partnerships with organizations like the Barnstable Land Trust, CPA funding leverages significant other private fundraising and it leverages other state and federal funding. So we're able to make a much greater impact in our community. There are many examples of the important land areas that we've been able to protect using Community Preservation Act funds. Everyone has their favorite parcel in town, and this is including the recently protected Sandtourt Woodlands property that was completed in the last year with the assistance of Community Preservation Act funding. We encourage everyone to get out and take advantage of the wonderful trails in town, the scenic views, and the recreational opportunities that are made possible through this funding source. And we appreciate your continued support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Anybody else here to speak to anything community preservation? Seeing none, if you do have any comments, please get in touch with us through the website. And I will start things off with my presentation for the Community Preservation Committee. Again, I'm Lindsay Council, Chair of the Community Preservation Committee. This opening slide is a picture on Town Hall showing the roof rebuild, a picture of the pathways, the Gateway project on Hyannis Harbor, and I believe this is the residences at the Rock in Dennis. This is our membership. We have, as we did, a variety of members. Unfortunately, a couple of members couldn't be here tonight, but it's a diverse group, along with our town council liaison, Kristen Turkelson. Come on. This is the act under which we operate, Chapter 44B. It was passed in the year 2000 by the state. At that time, we were operating under the land bank, you may remember. And it was adopted by the town of Barnstable in 2004. So we've been doing community preservation since then. And as I mentioned earlier, we can preserve open space, preserve and restore historic sites and buildings, to create affordable housing, and develop outdoor recreation facilities. Come on. I guess I got to point it over there. The local surcharge revenue, that's 3% on all of your property tax bills. That's how we generate the bulk of our funding. And we also get an annual trust fund distribution from the state that adds on to that based on what we take in as our income. And we do generate a small amount of interest income on that. We have Mark Milne coming up after me to give you a full breakdown on our financing. And he does a great job with that. Come on. This is our appropriations by category, 2005 to the present. And you can see we've spent $17.5 million on historic preservation, or 36%, $14,376,000, or 29% on community housing, $10,300,000 on open space, and $6,500,000 on community recreation. The interesting thing about those two is they're combined, so that would give us a total of about 16 million. So you can see we're pretty well evenly spread between the four major categories that we have funding for. We did make some changes last year to our process to update and streamline the application procedure. One significant thing we did require for historical preservation projects is that they have a determination of eligibility from the Mass Historic Commission. For any historic project that we do, you have to have a preservation restriction, particularly if it's a private property. So we wanted to get that ahead of time to make sure the projects are eligible. And we also executed a grant agreement with our applicants, which detail the conditions of each grant. Here's another slide on what open space funds can be used for. They can be used for acquiring or creating open space, preserve or protect coastal water quality, drinking water sources, wellheads, and they can also be used to rehabilitate or restore a property if it's had a building on it. We've done a number of removals and restoring a property to pure open space. This year, we've been involved in several projects. One was the Smiths Creek project in West Barnstable. That was a joint partnership with the Arundel Wildlife Land Trust, preserving 5.5 acres of open space. And we will be holding the conservation restriction on that, and Arundel will be the owners and managers of the property. Katuitt High Grounds Golf Course was protected through the hard work of the BLT. Kelly was involved in that. That's a little over 10 acres out there, and we'll again be holding the conservation restriction on that, and we split the cost evenly. Our portion of that was $1,350,000, and the land trust is going to allow the owner operation of that as a current golf course for 5 years, and then they're going to see what the future holds there and if golf will continue. This is another project. Katuitt got a little attention this year for open space. This is the Katuitt Woodlands, as it's called. $250,000 for another conservation restriction on 5.84 acres. And that links to another property next door that the BLT had previously acquired. So it's a nice little 10.5, 12, 11 acre site for this series of walking trails. This is an example of Luke's Love out in West Barnstable. That's a playground that we moved actually to this location when the ball field was improved. Quite well used, and you're going to hear a little bit later from our DPW folks on some of the other recreation projects we're working on. These are the new pickleball and tennis courts out in West Barnstable, very heavily used. And very well constructed. They were constructed through our DPW as a stress concrete project, very resilient surface, and a great site for that. For historic preservations, there are some limitations on where you can do that, but surprisingly, we can restore building, structure, we can invest in real property if it's a historic site, for example. Vessels, artifacts. We restored in the year gone by a little note that was found in a bottle in Katuitt that had a memo from a World War II prisoner that was at the campsite over there in Katuitt during World War II. So we've done a lot of different things and preserved a lot of records for the town here and over at Sturgis Library. So it's a very broad category that what we can do for our historic resource preservation. Here's another one of our projects, the Zion Union Museum, which is a town-owned facility, and we've dedicated funds to restore that back to its original look and feel and make it more accessible and fix some problems with the original building. One we just approved this year is a restoration on the West Barnstable Railroad Depot. This is a very historic structure that is maintained by the railroad group out there, but they really had gotten beyond what they were capable of, so we're going to restore some of the features on that. You can see in that upper corner here, some of the tile is lifting up, and it's going to be restored where those posts are taken out, so it has its original look without that support on it. And again, Mark Marinaccio and his crew over there have done a great job to bring this back to really what it could be. This is a rare gem. Most of these stations have been torn down. There's some more detailing on that. You can see how things have been patched in and are in tough shape over there, but it'll be a great building and a great resource when it's finished. This is some of the eligible uses of CPA community housing funds. We can acquire property or units. We can do new construction. We can conserve existing units. We did years ago preservation of Cromwell Courts, for example. Worked with the organization that worked on preserving existing community housing. We can grant consultants and do pre-development funds. We can give homeowner rental assistance. We can encourage the use of existing buildings or construct new. And what we did in 2022 was referred all of this very complicated stuff you see in this slide to the Affordable Housing Trust of Barnstable, and they have been very, very helpful to assist us in moving housing forward. It's a very complicated subject, and there are experts on that group that have helped move that along. And this is an Affordable Housing Trust project, Linnell Landing at 50 Yarmouth Road, the $500,000 grant from the trust, 15 units creating 5 affordable units subsidized. And here's another one, 850 Falmouth Road. They were awarded $1,300,000, and we had 10 affordable units subsidized. A great deal for that project. For total fiscal 2025, the appropriations totaled $2,739,000. That $989,000 was for historic preservation, and $1,750,000 was for open space. And these are some of the projects we have for that breakdown. It was 4609 Falmouth Road, Katuitt. That was the open space. The Doddridge Homestead, that was a restoration on the Doddridge building. The Federated Church Cemetery, you're going to hear from Pam Brown on that. Great job. It's right behind the Federated Church over here. If you get a chance to stop by there, it's a wonderful restoration job. We funded the new open space and recreation plan that they're working on now for $50,000. That was for consultant services. Having an accurate open space plan allows us to be eligible for grants and other funding, where if you don't have that plan, it becomes ineligible. Smiths Creek, I already mentioned. The depot, $792,000 for that restoration. And then the Katuitt High Grounds Golf Course. Oop. And we have, we'll be getting a further financial breakdown. We have available funding on hand of $21 million. We are going to be breaking that down through Mark will tell you where that's allocated, some of that. Some of it is in reserve for projects that haven't been completed. And we'll take a good look at that. So I'll take any questions or anything on that if you have them. Questions, anyone? Oh, come on. Somebody's got to. None? All right. Well, thank you very much. Yes, go ahead.
Offer some comments, maybe. Well, I just, it's great once a year to sit back and kind of reflect on, what the commission has done. And, one of the things that stood out was since inception, almost $50 million spent. So, I think we should be very proud, of what we've done and what prior members have done. I also like the fact that we have, if you look at the pie chart, there's kind of even chunks between the three main categories. That is really good to see. And I just wanted to, say I really enjoy serving on this board, and thank you, Lindsay, for, all the leadership you've provided.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Terry, you got something? No?
I will make a comment, though, after realizing how long that the Community Preservation Committee has been active. We've always looked at the greater good in each of the projects that we've approved and funded, and have really tried to drill down on these presentations before they go to town council. So we can be the really the bottom line for them to understand the projects and do it with dedication and focus. So we're glad of that, and we're glad for the opportunity to be able to be responsible for those funds.
Thanks, Terry.
Can
Okay.
I say something?
Oh, go ahead.
Just a quick
Sorry.
comment. I forgot how many years I have been on with the CPC committee, and I always enjoy working with Lindsay. Lindsay has spent a lot of time behind the scene, not just the meetings. After the meetings, he has to spend time to meet with applications and review it and doing site visit and all this stuff. He spent a lot of time and effort to make this CPC looks great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of work, makes us look good.
Okay, not just Lindsay makes this wheel run. I have to say that this has raised my respect for the town employees. I mean, they're thorough, not just town employees, but our own, even Ellen. She's worried that we'll have a quorum. I thought, oh my God, she's sweating this. And I'm like, it's not her job to worry. It's our job to be here. But, you know, I'm impressed. DPW comes before us a lot. I think I'm just impressed with everybody that represents the town. That's all.
Thank you, Deb.
Great.
All right. Well, I'll introduce another key person in all of this, Mark Milne, to give us his presentation on our funding for CPC. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, committee members. I'm Mark Milne, Town of Barnstable, Director of Finance, and I'm here this evening to provide the committee an update on the Community Preservation Fund's finances. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yes.
So let me just start off, first of all, with an update on your revenue and expenses for fiscal year 2025, which we just closed out, ending June 30th. We had almost $4.6 million of surtax revenues collected, with the state matching those funds with $802,000 from the state trust fund. We earned almost $678,000 of investment income on the cash deposits for the Community Preservation Fund. We had one grant that helped offset the cost of conservation restriction. I think it was for the Wheeler Road conservation restriction. And we had some miscellaneous other revenue. So total revenues of almost $6.6 million against total expenses of $1,358,000, and it's made up of some of your administrative expenses, and then expenditures within each program area as illustrated here, and $363,000 of debt service. So after all of that, from a fund balance perspective, we saw an increase or an excess revenues over expenses of $5,215,000. And then there was one transfer from the general fund to offset the West Barnstable Railroad Depot project of $186,000. So altogether, the fund saw an increase in its fund balance of $5.4 million. And we closed the fiscal year with a $22,936,000 fund balance. This is the balance sheet as of June 30th, 2025, and this shows how, at the bottom, shows how that $22,936,000 was broken out by program area as well as reservation. We had almost $800,000 reserved for encumbrances, almost $6 million reserved for continuing appropriations, which are projects that have been appropriated and we haven't completed yet. And we had $16.1 million available for appropriation. They got carried into fiscal year 2026. $816,000 of that was in the community housing program area, $2.8 million in the historic preservation program area, $4.1 million recreation and open space, and the balance of about $15.1 million unrestricted. appropriations, almost $6 million, all consisting of either open space recreation projects or historic preservation projects. I think there's about 18 active projects here on this list. And here's the fund balance by program area as of June 30th, 2025. We started out with beginning balances from the prior fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024. After accounting for our set-asides and the revenues that we collected for the year, we closed out 3 awards, previous appropriations that we did not follow through with those projects. We had several projects awarded in 2025 that Mr. Council already presented to you. And then we closed out the entry. We had some closing entries, which closes out the budget reserve and the unexpended administrative funds. And that's how we arrived at that $16.1 million of fund balance available for appropriation. Some of it was allocated, some of it's for the community housing program, about $816,000. Small amount for historic preservation, and the balance, again, unrestricted, could be used for any one of these program areas. And that's just over $15 million. Here's the remaining debt service for the Community Preservation Fund. We are near completion on all of the debt service payments. We have one more payment under the old land bank program that'll occur this fiscal year, 2026, and then we only have 5 years left on the exterior renovation of the town hall building, which will expire in fiscal year 30. And so this fund will be debt-free. Here are the current available balances by program area as of September 30th, 2025. We take those balances from the previous fiscal year ended that I just reviewed, and we add to that the estimated revenue for the fund in fiscal year 26. We put our minimum set-asides for each program area of $532,000, and then we account for the debt service that we must pay in fiscal year 26. Set aside $250,000 again for the administration budget, and that left us with $3,452,000 for a budget reserve. We've had 3 awards so far this year: $2.9 million for the Armory, $2.5 million for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and $406,000 for 2 Memorial Park. We have 2 contingent awards, which will appear on the Town Council's agenda this Thursday evening for a first reading. One for the Barnstable Playground and one for a conservation restriction on Parker Road. So after that, we still have $14.6 million available for appropriation, and that is available for any one of these program areas. Reservations for each program area, as you can see, have been fully exhausted. And so now we're just dealing with the unrestricted or undesignated in the budget reserve, which totals about $14.6 million. These are some potential projects in the pipeline. We may see these come forward in fiscal year 2026 at some point in time. We've identified them in the capital program, and you'll probably see Mark and DPW come forward at some point in the near future with applications for these projects. They total about $6.8 million, and we currently have that available balance of $14.6 million. So all of these projects could be done with cash and require no borrowing, and we would still have some funds left in the Community Preservation Fund. Here's a 10-year revenue trend for the Community Preservation Program. That includes the local surcharge and the trust fund distribution. As you can see, the percentage of the surcharge that has been distributed from the trust fund has ranged quite a bit, from 14% that we're estimating in this fiscal year to as high as 45% in calendar year 2022. So we haven't heard the amount that will be distributed this year. The distributions will occur on November 15th. The state trust fund collections are up about 1% overall from the previous year. So we could likely see something closer to 18% like we did last year for reimbursement from the state. So But you can see the local surcharge grows as our tax levy grows, and the trust fund distribution. It really depends upon the number of communities participating and how much money the state trust fund takes in. And finally, I just wanted to provide you some examples of if the committee were to consider a comprehensive funding package that involved a issuance of a long-term bond. The example one on the left-hand side shows a $30 million bond authorization for a 20-year debt at 4% interest, and this would tie up about half of the annual revenue that the Community Preservation Fund experiences. So it'd be an annual loan payment of anywhere from $2.2 to $2.7 million, which is about half of the fund's revenue. So it gives you a sense as to what could be afforded if 50% of the fund's revenue would be tied up into a long-term borrowing issue of $30 million. The example on the right-hand side is slightly higher. It's a $40 million borrowing authorization. This would tie up 60 to 70% of the annual Community Preservation Fund's program revenue. But I just want to provide you some examples of what that could look like if the committee is considering a comprehensive program for funding multiple projects in the future. This would give you a sense as to what that might look like and still leave cash on the table for smaller projects for the committee to consider. And that being said, I'll stop sharing my screen and be happy to answer any questions that committee members may have.
Steve?
You know I've got questions. Mark, I apologize. I do have a bunch of questions. I'll move through it as quick as I can. I did want to lead off and just say, I always like to see that the debt service is very healthy, and also commend you on your efforts related to the interest that we're earning with the cash on hand. Just one thing real quick, just in terms of terminology, I assume when you're talking about the difference between the words award and appropriation, award, I believe, refers to a vote we've made to approve a project, and appropriation is actual check written to an applicant and money out the door. Do I have that right?
The appropriation is actually, only the town council can appropriate funds. So an appropriation refers to town council action, and where award would be your committee's vote. Your committee would vote to award funding on an application, but then the town council has to consider that, and they're the appropriating body, so that's the difference.
Understood. Okay, I appreciate that. The other revenue, I know it's small, the 21,175. Can you give an example of what that comes from?
I believe that was a return of some funds for an affordable accessory apartment program that the Community Preservation Fund had previously awarded, and the town council appropriated, and then I believe the property involved ended up being sold, and they were required to return the funds.
Okay, understood. Let's see, so slide 8 is very helpful, and I'd love to see that information included, in the future. I think that's something that we've all talked about quite a bit, especially related to DPW. So looking on paper at potential projects in the pipeline, I do appreciate you putting that together just so we kind of have that glimpse. One thing that would be nice is if a column was added to that with potential appropriation year, just so visually we can see. I mean, I've talked at previous meetings about how I get a little bit nervous about a lot coming at once, and if there was a column that showed potentially when that money would go out the door, I think that would make a lot of us breathe easier, knowing that, okay, it's not all hitting potentially in the same year. And I know it's difficult to predict these timelines, but if that information was available, that would be a good thing to see. And, just quick math, if you look at the current available balance in the fund less those projects in the pipeline, that brings the fund back, to about 7.8 million. So certainly still cash on hand, but it just gets to a point where we get a little bit nervous. And that brings me to my next question. Would you consider yourself to be kind of our financial advisor. And this is going to sound silly, but who protects us from making bad decisions and appropriating too much and running out of money? Because we're all volunteers. None of us are CPAs. So we have to have some level of somebody's looking out for us. Is that you? And how does that come into play?
Yeah, certainly with these annual updates that I provide the committee, I can be your advisor as to just how, aggressive you wanted to be in funding programs, which is a good example of that would be the last slide that I presented to you. If there was ever an interest to, do a comprehensive bond financed program where you could really, take a big chunk and get a lot of projects done, you could certainly, we wouldn't tie up all your funding. I wouldn't want to tie up, any more than 60–70% of your annual funding into a debt payment, because then you lose all your flexibility, right? Because you're only left with a couple of $1 million a year then for cash in appropriations, and you've got this 20-year note that you have to pay off. It's kind of like where we were at the very beginning of the land bank program, where we purchased a lot of acreage, preserving a lot of open space. We issued a lot of borrowings, and that tied up a lot of the annual revenue of the community preservation program, or the land bank program at that point in time is what it was called. Not leaving a lot available for cash projects. We had some smaller projects that we continued to finance, but it was a few years before it really became more aggressive in funding these multiple smaller projects like you have been for the past several years. So yeah, I can certainly, I play that role. I work closely with the chair. We talk quite often, and be happy to continue doing that.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I mean, great segue, because that leads into the next conversation I wanted to have, which is the debt service potential bond. We've talked before about it, and one of the things, the angle that we've taken when we've discussed it has been recreation and, kind of the lack of playgrounds and the lack of progress related to playgrounds. So, the examples you gave, 30 million, 40 million, for me, I personally wouldn't really be comfortable tying up 50% or more of our funds. I think about it, more along the lines of, 10 million and just trying to fund playgrounds, just trying to fund recreation, playgrounds, around town. And in doing so, partnering with the planning department. This is something that we've talked about in the past, trying to see part of that bond, say you did 10 million, could that include a portion for an in-house designer that could work with DPW and planning to help Mark and his team, who I know have a lot on their plate, to get some of these projects across the line. So, I mean, that's more the angle I think of. I don't think I'd want to go more than, 10, 15, something like that. But what is the process for that? How does that conversation originate? Is it something that our board votes on and then it goes to town council? How does that process work?
Yeah, that would originate with the committee. You could, working with, most likely, Public Works. If you're looking, for example, let's use your example, a comprehensive playground, townwide playground upgrade program. Certainly, you would have to work with DPW staff to flush that out. What would that look like? Locations, cost, and so forth. And then bring that to your committee for review and approval. Of course, bouncing the financial aspects of such a program off of me, and I can advise you on the financial components of it. Well, Public Works can advise you on the project components of it. And then if the committee approves such a package that they want to do these several playgrounds for X number of dollars, then you would approve that, take that, and then we would bring that forward to the town council for their consideration of appropriating those funds and issuing that borrowing authorization.
Okay, understood. Well, I appreciate that, and I think that we should continue to talk about it and potentially get serious about it. We've got an open space and recreation plan that we're working on. I know out of that is going to come information and recommendations about playgrounds, so I feel as though that will be a ripe time to kind of get after it. And DPW's here, if you don't mind touching on that, when you talk. I think that it's a conversation that we should continue. And that's it. That's all I had. Thank you very much for, sorry it took up so much time. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Do you have a question, Tom?
Yes. Hey, Mark, thank you for your hard work in keeping track of the dollars that we spend and collect. The question I have is, you mentioned about 50% is too high in terms of the bonding. What is your comfort level from your perspective? I know Steve is talking about 10 million, 15 million. What percentage are you consider as comfortable in your mind?
I wouldn't go any higher than half of your annual revenue, right? Because what could happen, what if there's a contraction, for example? And state trust fund distributions decline, certain tax revenue isn't collected, for example, as to the collection percentages that we've been experiencing. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend going any higher than that. Certainly, the lower the better, because you lose budget flexibility. The more you lock up your annual revenues into a fixed loan payment, you're really left then with you've got this nut that you have to carry for X number of years, and then it limits your future appropriating or awarding authority.
So my follow-up question is, if that's the case, then, what do you think of if we approve a certain bonding for, let's say, 5 million, and then for a year, and then a few years later, we can do another 5 million? Is that something that is doable in terms of the revenue and all that?
Yeah, certainly you could that's another approach that you could take is staggering bond issues. I think the other thing we have to take into consideration is what you're trying to achieve from a programmatic perspective. If you see an opportunity to really make a significant improvement for our community in any particular one of these areas, and you want to take advantage of some other opportunities that are out there, and be a little bit more aggressive, that's something else to consider. But you could also, as you suggested, consider a staggering of a long-term borrowing program, so that you have eventually some debt expiring in a year that could be repurposed for something else when you get there.
Thank you, Mark.
A lot of different ways that you could approach the financing.
Right. Thank you, Mark.
Anyone else?
I'm sorry, can I ask one more question?
Yes.
All right. Mark, do you know anything about the opportunity at the Anthony Comaquid property? Has there been are you aware of any discussions with the property owner?
No, I have not. I have not had any discussions, but certainly I think they actually just paid off the back taxes on that property, well in excess of $700,000, which tells you just how much more valuable that land is with no buildings on it. But yeah, I think that one's tricky, because I believe half of that property resides in the town of Yarmouth and half in the town of Barnstable. So
Yeah.
That would be an effort if we were to move on acquiring that, and even if the sellers were interested in selling it, it would require Barnstable and Yarmouth coming together with the sellers.
Understood, thank you. If an opportunity does show up, we want to keep some flexibility to potentially be a partner.
I have one quick question. Thank you, Mark, for your great job, because you make very complicated things understandable for even a dummy like myself. So that's great. I appreciate it. A question I have is, if we look at some projects like multiple playgrounds, we've been staggered by the rising costs of playgrounds. We've been looking at them for a number of years, and they could just continue to be more and more expensive. Would our procedure be to develop that whole package of programs before we do a bond for that project? Whether it's going to be the actual expenditures that are needed, just if we fund the project, the potential project?
Yeah, certainly, I think, one way to look that, a program like that would be to package together, the design of several of these at once, and then put them out to bid together, because there's the potential to perhaps, see a more favorable cost if we're bidding them all at once. Issuing a large project as opposed to doing them piecemeal one by one. It might be a little bit more cost effective to do them together as one bid. It's something to think about doing.
Great. Okay. That it for questions? I'd like to welcome Catherine Garofoli to our dais here. Thank you. All right, well, our next speaker, we'll get into the actual projects and some work we've done, is Miss Pam Brown of the Federated Church for the Universalist Cemetery Project.
Thank you very much for inviting me here tonight. I am very happy and grateful to be able to share the results of this project with everyone. The conservation work is now 80% complete and could be done by the end of 2025. This historic burial ground, established in 1830 and tucked in downtown Hyannis, has been saved by Community Preservation Act funds of the town of Barnstable. It was in very rough shape, with stones broken, fallen, even buried below ground. Back in 2016, it looked like this in the view from Elm Avenue. The Barnstable Police Department, in a letter of support, described it as a hotspot for unwelcomed and criminal activity. In the month of August 2016, they responded to 59 calls, mainly for alcohol and drug abuse and needle recovery. The initial CPA grant awarded in 2017 paid for fencing to define the space and deter trespassers. It was installed in 2018. This is the view from Elm Avenue today. There is a double gate for access by contractors and a pedestrian gate at the northeast corner. The cemetery is open to visitors during the day. And moving to the left along this fence, you're seeing the northeast corner of the cemetery, and this is a close-up of the pedestrian gate. This was existing fencing behind the businesses along Barnstable Road on the west side of the cemetery before and after. The first grant also paid for a condition assessment that included documenting who is buried and where their gravestones are located, because there were essentially no records. This is one page of a 15-page spreadsheet listing over 600 burials and their location, as well as dates of death and other information. It's alphabetical. First on the list is last name Anderson, first name Annie H., maiden name Eldridge, year of birth 1863, year of death 1896. The grave location is A1104. So she is in section A, row 11, grave number 4. And here is the location map by section A, B, C, and D. Row number counting from the church building, and grave number counting from the pathway that runs north-south through the cemetery. Granite markers will soon be placed to define the 4 sections, each engraved with the section letter. Both of these documents are available to the public on the Federated Church website, along with a brief history of the burial ground. So when people come looking for their ancestors, they just go to the website, they can find this documentation, and they can locate the graves. The condition assessment report, completed in January 2024, provided a formal overview of the cemetery, including photos of significant stones. It lists 270 stones in need of conservation, the treatment required to fix them, and the estimated cost. The report provided the basis for soliciting bids to repair and conserve the stones, and we were then able to apply for a CPA grant for this final phase of the project. The grant was awarded in January 2025, and work began in May. This is one of 36 pages of a spreadsheet in this report. I'm going to focus on the last entry here in a moment, the Marchant and Baxter stones. The next 3 slides are going to show the tools and equipment utilized by the conservator. This is a triangular lift for moving the stones. Many bags of soil, pea stone, and sand to provide a base under the stones. And a myriad of products and tools for each step of the work. He's still working. I saw him this morning. Getting back to the information on the spreadsheet, here are the Marchant and Baxter stones made of marble and granite, which share a base. The treatment outlined on the spreadsheet is to disassemble and excavate the base, clean and reset the marble bases on the granite bases with setting compound, rejoin the fragments, and reset the stones. Here's what they look like now. The stone to the left will continue to improve from the cleaning solution that has been applied. And here is the side that was lying face down on the ground and not visible. Notice the beautiful carvings. Henry and Theo. Henry died in a train accident in Woods Hole in 1886. His wife, Theodate, remarried Nathaniel Marchant, who is not buried in this cemetery. I have a few other before and after photos to share. This is Captain Robert Hallett, his wife Julia, and son Leston before and after. And this is a view of the southwest corner of the cemetery, where there were several stones lying flat that we couldn't read at all, before and after. And here is a view from a church window before. I think you can see all the stones that are just lying flat. And in that same area were stones that were actually under the ground that were discovered by the conservators. And this is the after shot, what it looks like today. You can see how bright the stones are after cleaning. It can take a few weeks or months for the stones to improve after application of the biological cleaning solution. The solution used will continue to retard new growth of algae and lichen for 2 to 4 years. 2 guided tours were offered to the public in the fall of 2024, and one was just given on Saturday as part of a Hyannis Public Library fundraiser. And finally, a sign will be posted to acknowledge the town's commitment to preservation. We encourage folks to visit for a stroll through our local history and to appreciate the art and inscriptions in this quiet space in the middle of our bustling downtown Hyannis. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Deb?
I just want to say, I wondered what took so long. Congratulations.
Thanks. It's only been 10 years.
Any questions from the public on that one?
You got to come up to the mic. You got to come up to the mic.
Oh, good. Yes, if there are any interments happening now? Yeah, no, it's closed. It's closed to burials now.
Yeah, good question.
More questions?
Jackie Council, what is the solution? You said there's a biological solution. What is it made out of?
It's a special formula that will not harm a gravestone. I can't tell you exactly what's in it.
Just curious.
But yeah, you have to be very careful. People have made well-intentioned efforts to clean stones, to repair stones that did more harm than good. And
Yeah,
yeah, so this is what they use.
great.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Steve.
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to offer some comments. You know, it's just such a wonderful story to hear, you know, to hear a best practice and to hear, you know, some good that's been done, you know, by these funds. It's also such a satisfying, tangible result. You know, I can think of projects that we work on that relate to, you know, structural things and things that you just can't see in a building. And this is something that you clearly notice. I was asked to go by and have a look and check out the progress, and I was truly shocked by the result because I've seen it many times, and they're just, the stones are so bright and bold and vibrant compared to before. It's just, it's wonderful. It's great to see, and the public good is so evident. So thank you so much for sharing your story. And I do remember when this came up being shocked by the price. Absolutely shocked. And I shared my views, and after you gave this presentation, I get it. Money well spent, worth every penny. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. That it? No other questions, members? Nothing? Okay. Our next speaker is Mr. Paul Graves, Senior Project Manager of the DPW, for a presentation on the status of the Cape Cod Rail Trail Bikeway Project, phases 3 and 4.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. As
You just
said,
move the
I'm Paul
microphone up a
Graves.
bit. Microphone up.
There you go,
Nice.
you're big
Perfect.
dog.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I'm Paul Graves, a senior project manager with DPW and the manager for these rail trail projects on behalf of the town. Now, to be fair, a lot of other people are working on them too, including our partners in Yarmouth and our partners with Mass DOT. Okay. Oh, there it is. So the paper I had indicated that I was supposed to be finish my remarks prior to speaking 10 minutes. So I will do my best to do that. And as a reason for that, you'll see that I have very few slides. Let's see. So we'll look at, oh, there we go. Currently, let's see, the project areas are on this map now. I'm having trouble with this. Okay. It may be a little difficult to see, but the black line that extends eastward on the rightmost side of this map, that represents what we call Rail Trail Phase 3, which runs from Yarmouth into Barnstable, ending at Mary Dunn Road. And then the yellow line is the proposed route for a much longer portion of the rail trail that we call Phase 4. Phase 3 is currently in construction. It's about 20% complete right now. And Rail Trail Phase 4 is in early design. So a couple of years ago, with CPC's help, we were able to get some appropriations for these two projects. You'll see that for Phase 3, we were awarded $195,000, and that was for the purpose of finishing the design and bidding of the project, which now, of course, has been completed. And so you can see under current balances, that's currently down to about $48,000. And that remaining funding is needed because obviously there's going to be some other issues that we need to engineer during the construction period. Now, we were also awarded $300,000 for Phase 4. Thus far, we have not needed to touch that because we've been fortunate to get Mass Trails grants. We are hopeful that the $300,000 could remain if you see fit, because we don't know what the future holds in these economic times. And, you know, we want to keep the momentum going on the projects. So in the past couple of years, what we accomplished with Phase 3, just an overview of what we accomplished. But the main points were we completed the design, we completed the permitting, bidding occurred, and again, we're now under construction. At the beginning of the slide, this shows one view of the current condition out there. It's got one course of pavement on it. People are using it already when construction is not active there. And it's really quite beautiful. Obviously, it's going to be more beautiful when more vegetation grows in and all of that. But it's coming along quite nicely. And our main accomplishments over the past couple of years for Phase 4 were completing the land surveying. That also included aerial surveying, environmental reviews with the state, our consultant preparing preliminary layout plans, which we're in the process of reviewing and potentially making some tweaks to. And we received formal approval from Mass DOT that they plan to, when the time comes, fund construction, which is very important. We anticipate that Phase 4, a rough estimate at this point in time is for construction around $70 million. So state funding is going to be very important. And a lot of the state funding comes from federal government. Again, we don't know what the future holds here. So the next steps Phase 3, obviously, we want to continue it to completion. And that's anticipated in February of 2031. I know that sounds like it's way out. The bulk of the cost and effort on this project, while the portion in Barnstable is certainly a major construction, much more of the work is in the town of Yarmouth. There's going to be a bridge spanning Willow Street, and a lot of the railroads and such, railroad bridges and such have to be modified, and there's a lot of utility work out there as well. Whereas the portion in Barnstable is primarily within the Hyannis Ponds wildlife management area. So a lot of those issues that I just mentioned don't apply there. Here's my contact info, and we do have a website dedicated to this project, both Phase 3 and Phase 4, that anyone can look at on the town website.
That's it. Thank you, Paul.
Yes.
Questions from members?
Well, I can barely contain my excitement, but the slide with the 2031, it's like, oh my God, you know, I want to go riding now, Paul. It's
But you can't, oh, I'm sorry. but you can
Okay.
on part of it.
Yeah. Well, then I'm going to, because it's just so exciting. We've had so many, enjoyable conversations about it, a lot of excitement within our board. So just great work, and I wish it would go faster, that's all. So just looking forward to it. So 2031, and then what was the timeline for Phase 4 in terms of completion of design and start of construction? Can you remind me?
Yes, we don't know.
Oh.
Sorry, we don't know.
I'm getting old, Paul.
Yes, I realize that. We all want it to go as quickly as possible, of course. And we've met with Mass DOT several times about the project. They're eager to get it done as well. We've seen time and time again when we work with Mass DOT on our projects. It's a balancing act, because they bring the money. Typically, the town pays on the order of 10% of the project cost for design and permitting, and then Mass DOT, when they're involved and take on the project, like they will here, that they pay the rest, which is typically about 90%.
Sure.
But they also have very, very rigorous procedures and processes that they require, and that's very, very time consuming.
Sure.
So at this point, I don't think it would be right for me to hazard a guess, but I hope that it will not be too far behind the current project.
Understood.
And there's always hope that the current project might go faster than it did. Our Burses Way shared use path project over on Burses Way is likely to be completed about a year ahead of time. At this point, that's what it seems like it's going to happen. So I don't know if the same could be said for the rail trail project, but we all want it to.
Of course. I speak for many in the town when I say we're eager for it. And when you talk about Phase 3, just one final question, is all the funding secured, or is there funding at the state level that may disappear due to actions at the federal level, or is it all fully secured?
Phase 3 is secured.
Okay,
It-
that's all I need to know.
It went through bidding, it got awarded.
Yeah, you can't
I mean,
crawl it back now.
It should, you know.
Understood. Knock on wood. Yes, well done. Well, thank you very much again. Great presentation, and thank you for what you're doing.
Any other questions? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, I'll go to our last speakers, possibly.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. And Department of Public Works staff for CPA-funded recreation projects. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and committee. I'm Richard Ventron. I'm the senior architect with the town of Barnstable. Just to say, Ms. Converse, thank you for what you said about all the work we do. We do care about it, and we enjoy spending the money you give us for big, important projects that the public gets to enjoy. So let me tell you about some of them. So we're going to cover 3 projects here, represented by these vintage postcards. West Barnstable project, this is Luke's Love Playground and the field there. Centerville Playground, and finally, Osterville Playground. So we'll start with the Lombard Field and Luke's Glove Playground in West Barnstable. This is a project that has been completed for some time, but it's a good place to start because it really speaks to the importance of these playgrounds and of these facilities for people and how they're enjoyed. I think everyone knows that this is a very well-loved playground, and it's a destination playground that people have gone to. It was used for the renovation. This funding by the CPC was used for renovation of Lombard Field, and as part of that work, as the chairman mentioned during his presentation, we moved the playground behind the old Selectmen's building and made improvements to the parking lot as well in a kind of a serpentine way that tried to highlight natural forms. And this was done by 2018. This was pretty much finished, but that Luke's Love Playground, it was relocated equipment. The equipment was refurbished, components were replaced, and there was new surfacing done. And as you all, I think, know at this point, there was talk about how much more these playgrounds cost. A big component of them is this surfacing, where those of us that are old remember dirt and wood chips, but it's really a terrible surface. And these new surfaces are soft and absorb. People that are falling actually have different thicknesses depending on the equipment around which or under which they're installed. It's all very complicated. Some images of that. Choices were made to use wood rails, wood guardrails, keep it as naturalistic as is possible. You see here again, you can't go there on any given day. Even in the winter, you'll see people in that playground. And as part of this, you see the before during the move, and of course after with the Selectmen's building and the playground behind it. Next, Centerville Playground, which we're doing right now. This has been a highly anticipated project. It's taken us a few years to get it going. We had some complications, particularly related to the retaining wall that initially wasn't. We knew it had to be replaced, but wasn't conceived as being done with this project necessarily at the very same time. Every building, by the way, in that photograph is still there. What we've done is raised the area. The next slide will show you a better representation of it because that black makes it very difficult to see, as well as that dark blue. But you can see the community building there on the upper right of that site plan, and Main Street is to the far right. So phase 2 of this will be, a later phase will be the softball field. But everything we're doing has been done in keeping in mind that that will happen at some point. So the parking was reconfigured on the back of the building, as you can see, all to provide handicap accessibility. It would have been too steep. So that was all changed. We've also raised the level of it was really kind of a pit, as you all know. We raised it by some 3 feet, which greatly increased the level ground we had, and also helped alleviate some of the ADA accessibility issues that we would have had otherwise. And here you see a close-up, so you can actually see what's happening here. As you recall, on the bottom right of this image, you see a walkway that'll be an elevated walkway with stairs that will be built. This is was just a gate there with a little arbor on it that people could walk down to the playground, but it was heavily eroded, lots of tripping hazards in the form of roots, but an important connection that we wanted to maintain because, of course, this is a playground and there's a candy store directly across the street from it. So we had to make sure that that stayed. And it's also a nice place for pedestrians so that you don't have to walk through a parking lot to get to the playground. You can walk off of the street. Here's one of the renderings that we did for the playground. So this would be looking from the upper parking lot, the front of the building, looking down. The gray concrete ramp you're seeing on the far right exists. That is still there. So the connection, the entry is very much exactly as it was, but as you know, it was a matter of, I'll be generous and call it steps, but eroded land and railroad ties and the like that brought you down to the playground. You see we have, we're hoping it survives, and we've done our very best. Our arborist has said he doesn't believe that the tree actually has that many years left, but that beautiful flowering cherry we've kept, and we're putting a well around it so that it will remain. There will be pavers, and this has very much a theme associated with the sea. There's a lot of activity. There's a shipwreck. I'll go back to this one. There is a large, it's on the upper right of the back of the playground, there's a climbing structure that you can go in and under and climb through. There's effectively be as hidden as one can be while always maintaining visibility. We don't want to create spaces that people can hide in or use at night when children are no longer there. Another view of it from the street. So this is, the candy store would be behind you as you go down into this playground. And in the far back, you can just get a glimpse of the idea of the ball field back there. We have a shade structure that we're putting in as well, and lots of seating, and also a picnic area component to it, so people are encouraged to linger. Parents can watch their children as they play, always be monitoring them. But the idea of really gathering here is being a welcoming place for people to play. There is the green you're seeing, the bold green, is actually artificial turf. So we're combining artificial turf with the solid surface, not solid surface, with the pour-in-place surfacing around the playground elements. And here is our progress. So this is well underway now. And we had a great local advisory committee that met with us that really helped us formulate the ideas that went into this, with whom we collaborated on it. So it was a very enjoyable experience. You can see in the upper left, just before, this is July 28th of 2009, but it looked very much like this. Although the retaining wall was actually in worse condition, but you can see here as we've made progress through, and you can see on the upper right slide as they're starting to put the fill in and raise the level, and you can see from the drains that there's more to go as we build this surface up. On the lower left, again, a similar, the ramp going down is that little sliver of verticality. That's the railing you see on the right. And then here you see the retaining wall. We removed that, and we have put in now, it's called VersaLock, a system, a locking system, retaining wall. Of course, this will be landscaped over it, and there will be a railing on it. But this was a component, again, that we knew had to be addressed, but initially didn't have in our plans to do at this point, but it couldn't wait any longer. In the 4 years I've been here, that retaining wall went from looking lousy to effectively not existing anymore. And the next one we're working on now, and the final one to show you this evening, is Osterville Playground, which, again, we had a lot of local residents that joined us in helping. This has been in the long time running, this playground. We're very excited about it. It's, again, another collaborative experience. And I'll read this just for those that might not see it on screen. In fiscal year 23, preservation funding was appropriated for a new playground in Osterville. The project is nearing the end of construction documents. Additional funding will be voted on by the town council as approved by the Community Preservation Committee on Thursday, October 23rd. So this Thursday, the additional funding. The project is anticipated to be bid in November of 25, with construction completing in the fall of 2026. So we look forward to that happening. Here you get an idea of the site plan of it. You can see the tennis or pickleball courts on the bottom of it, and on top you see with that angled hatching, I think the Verizon building or that communication building that is there. We generated, one of the things we used was SketchUp. This was all done in-house by us. It's nice to look at drawings, but it's very difficult, particularly for lay people, to understand what they mean. And when you get into playground equipment, then it's off the charts because everything's curved and bent and twisted and you don't know what it is. So this was a very helpful tool for us as we went through the project and formulated what it would be and what the theme would be. This is effectively as close to a plan. I've removed shadows and I've removed that large shade structure has been removed for this image so that you can see the equipment under it. We had two different port and place schemes that was viewed by the committee, and this one was chosen to make it, again, more naturalistic rather. We had a very abstracted one that had kind of a 60s vibe to it, which was really neat. But this everyone really preferred. We have a compass rose, that is what's called a we go round. We all remember those little carousels where you could spin till centrifugal force would make you fly off of it. Well, you can't do that anymore, but that's what that is. Again, climbing structures, a great deal of play value in all of this. From right to left in the large blue patch on the right side, all of those things are connected. There's balancing involved. Some of those kind of figure eight shaped pieces actually have springs under them. It's a great deal of fun. We never had playground equipment as fun as this could be. There are places, as you see, with the shade structures on the bottom, with 4 picnic tables, again, encouraging people to spend some time here and enjoy it with your kids. There are swings that accommodate those with accessibility and handicaps. Those angled triangle patterns are actually there to visually warn people about the idea that you're swinging. This is a swing. It's a big open area, but we really believe that it does it in an exciting way, but also makes you understand that something different happens where those triangles are. So there's kind of a 5 to 10 age group on the far right in that, let's call it that body of water there, with a shallow area and a deeper water area kind of represented. On the far left, it's more 2 to 4, 2 to 5 group of people, younger children. Everyone's welcome to play wherever they want. And what we've found from our consultant in playgrounds is that children are really kind of self-limiting. They'll try something. The problem comes, and I think I've said this to you all before, the problem comes when parents lift children up and put them on something that's hanging or where there's 'Cause they'll go in, they'll try, and they'll say, you know what, actually, I think I'll back off of this. So it works really very well in that capacity. Here you can see the excitement of the space, the vibrant colors that we're using. And there's also a component that we're going for is of this musical instruments. And those musical instruments will be scattered around the playground to encourage people to play music. Children, they're really quite wonderful. Various things around. You see a large one there, it looks like pipes, and it kind of is. You hit, makes some... it's exciting. Please go look at it. Here, another area. You can see the compass rose here, where those two children are running there on the lower left area. That flower thing is actually a musical instrument that you'll be able to play. So they're like bells. There's another one as you go, as you jump over those rocks, which are just poured in place flat pieces, you see what looks like reeds. That's a musical instrument to be able to be played. So you see the connectivity, and we're even going to put in, we have a shark and a manta ray. You can see under that orange curved kind of ladder thing, a manta ray in silhouette that is there. There will be two entrances. One will be locked, which will really be for servicing the space, but really only one gated entrance, as you see there on the upper right. That is to provide comfort knowing that someone can't sneak in from the back. There's one place to get in and go out. Here's another view of all of this. Again, on the very bottom, those little, they look like munchkin land kind of mushroom forms. That's a musical instrument. So that's something you hit and play. So these instruments are great. They make wonderful tones, but they're also very kind of fantastic in the way they represent what they do. Here's an area of the 2 to 4. They get the shark. And again, you see from that little domed structure that one can crawl in to get to the little house structure, kind of seaside beach structure. You can balance, you can walk, you can try to not fall into the water, as it were. So all of this was put into it, the thought of making this. And again, benches around for parents to sit or people that might be bringing them. Another view of it, seeing the swings and how they work. You can see the orange swing, so someone can be put in if you're going to be pushing them. They're traditional swings. There's a swing where 2 people can go in it. There's a lot of play here. I think it'll be hard for parents to pull their kids away. And this is the final image I have of it for you, showing the entrance, the parking lot, which is effectively, it's extended here, but it's effectively where it is now. On the far left, you can see the tennis or pickleball courts, and then that building beyond. And so we think it's a very inviting. You see a bottle filling station there in front of that kind of rose-colored tree. And we're very excited about this. Both Centerville and this playground are going to become, not that that's what we were trying to do, but they are going to become destination playgrounds. And one of the things that the advisory group was very emphatic about as we went through is they wanted to make something not only for the children of Osterville, but for visitors and for peoples in other communities to come. They felt very strongly about that it be a welcoming place. And that is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Questions for Richard? Go.
Thank you.
It's nice to see a couple of user groups here.
Yes.
Thank you for the presentation. I do have a question about Centerville and Osterville playgrounds. What are the expected lifespans of these type of structures, poured material, all of the above?
Well, in all cases, of course, maintenance is very important. So, and these will be routinely inspected by our consultant. That actually their job, their specialty is playgrounds, to make sure that we have safety issues. In fact, at Luke's Love, our consultant went there one day and saw something they didn't like about the swing, saw an area of eroded poured in place that we immediately addressed. So that's key. What you'll find is that a lot of these playgrounds, particularly Centerville, a lot of well-meaning locals installed a great deal of equipment that was beautiful, but really, by our standards today, quite dangerous, and not really able to maintain in an effective way. So this equipment is designed to have a life of, I actually can't tell you how many decades is it, Mark? I thought I was going to say 25 years. But they're made of components, can be replaced. The companies from which we've bought the equipment, and we already have the Centerville equipment. We own it. The town bought that equipment. That's ready to be installed. And just so you know, I'm going to go ahead, actually, this came up. We cannot install the equipment, even if the playground looks ready, until the port in place is in place, because of course people are going to play on it. So the hope is that we could do it before it gets too cold. We're already there. So that has to be, unfortunately, done next spring. Because if we put in equipment, people are going to come and play in it, and the ground surface won't be safe for them to play in it. But I would say a quarter of a century, but also maintenance will have to be done. There will be a need periodically to address components. This is all bolted together. They're installed by certified installers from the manufacturer. Bolts are torqued, all of this. There are very strict standards to put it together. But the good part about it is that as things fatigue or need to be replaced or are damaged, that can be replaced. You can fill in, replace things. So I would say at least 25 to 30 years, and maybe more. They're all powder coated. In time, you get about 15 to 20 years with powder coating before it can start to delaminate. There's just no way around it. It's impossible to make it so that doesn't happen. So those things will have to be addressed too. There will be some UV fading, but they do use powder-coated systems now that are resistant to it, understanding that most playgrounds are in the glaring sun because you can't have trees all around them. There's a fall zone around these pieces of equipment that you must keep clear of anything. So they, by design, have to effectively be on a exposed open plane. Did I answer your question?
Anyone else?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Great job. I mean, absolutely beautiful. The three playgrounds you shared. The Luke's Love is such a best practice of what can be, and it's so enjoyed by so many here in the town. My only complaint is the one I kind of bring up all the time, which is just the timeline of the process. I just wonder, are all the renderings needed? Is it all necessary? Is the advisory group necessary? It's just how much does that add to the timeline? It's just we need playgrounds in Hyannis and Katuitt and the BWB playground. So everything just takes so long. That's all.
Well, being able to visualize it is really necessary, and it's kind of hard to come to consensus, especially when people are looking, if you can't see what it is. And it's not something you can draw in elevation. So could we have provided, I'm going to go back here, if we could have conceivably shown them this and said, here's your playground, at a larger scale, it tells you nothing.
Again, one or two renderings is all.
But the rendering is done as a thing, and then those are just views.
Okay.
So I can take, that's a 3D model that I can rotate any way I want, and then just effectively export a 2D graphic of it. So we find it almost really necessary, especially with something like this. I mean, a house, maybe you could get away with it, but something like this it's really kind of impossible to understand. But it is, the process always takes longer than we'd like, partly because, we are not looking for total consensus. There are, disagreements, and there's a point where we ultimately will make the decision on certain things.
As you should. You are the
And,
professional.
yeah, we do that, but we want to please everyone, but there are certain things that, just don't work out. But there are also things that come in over which we have no control. So, for example, the retaining wall in Centerville, that became something of a sticking point. We didn't have the money, but we had to replace it. And then Mark had to work a way to find the funds and be creative and discuss all of that, and then work it into the project, because it had to happen at the exact same time. So all of those things can just push it out, and it's not for lack of, could we have trimmed a month or two, maybe 3 off of it? In hindsight, maybe, yeah. But in terms of the overall picture, it kind of takes the time it takes, and especially to get the end result you want. And Osterville, the same. They've been talking about it being done for 16 years, but really it wasn't until a year and a half ago that really it became like a real project with funding, that we then okay, let's go. And we've been, and then the instruments came in. One of the people suggested we have instruments, which I think to some degree is still a little bit controversial. There's concern over the sound of the instruments and will it be too loud? But we worked that in. I think it's a beautiful component to have, and I think it will be very, very loved. But so I hear what you're saying, absolutely. But on our end, we're moving on it the whole time.
Sure. No, you got the momentum now. And I mean, I mentioned that only because I always like to see the experts allotted the freedom to use their expertise to select what they feel is right. But you're right, we've got momentum. These are 3 great designs. I'd love to see in the future if you were able to take these existing designs and plug and play in other areas rather than starting from scratch in other areas. So love the momentum, great presentation, and I think we're all looking forward to it.
Thank you. No, you can't talk. The town architect wants to say something.
Thank you.
Hi.
Thank you.
Mark Marinaccio, Public Works. Really, just to address one of the comments is, Barnstable is made up of seven villages, and each village has its own flavor, its own character. And so what we have been doing is working with local civic groups, with local people that are interested to make that playground specific for that village. And I think there's an important element to that. I've been to a lot of playgrounds. I have 2 granddaughters that are 5 and 10, and so we go to a lot of playgrounds. But there's some playgrounds that are just very generic, right? And so really, I've been really kind of amazed by the interest of the different civic associations and different people of the public that come with really strong feelings about what they want their playground to be. Some of them are memories from when they were children and they played in that playground, and some of them are grandparents that want their grandchildren to play there. And so, we've really brought the process to really customize these and for each one to be a little bit different. We have a playground consultant that is an expert. At the beginning of these processes, some people bring ideas of, here's this playground manufacturer, things that they've seen overseas. And our consultant's really done a good job of weeding through some of that and saying, well, this doesn't meet today's standards, or I've worked with this company before and, has a shorter life expectancy than this company. And so I think our process works. People want them done right away, but they need to be safe. They need to be right.
Sure. Thanks, Mark. Questions from the members?
I do have a comment, though.
Yes.
I would just, I think we should just, since it's our annual meeting, we should take a minute and thank Mark Marinaccio, Captain Playgrounds, for the hard work that he does in coming to us with these projects, because we grind him down, man. We ask him questions, and I know he's thinking, golly, come on, man. And he is such a good presenter, and he's so calm at all this and answers the craziest, weirdest questions. Thanks, Mark, for your hard work, man.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I mean, who would
The Captain Playgrounds thing is sticking, I just want you to know.
No, I mean,
Tomorrow it starts.
literally, who would think that, you go to architectural school for 5 years and you work in the private sector, you become an architect, and then there's an opening at Barnstable for, an architect, you work here, and, I'm learning I've learned so much. You learn playgrounds, Moving Luke's Love was a big learning curve, and now we're in the curve, and I think they're getting better and better as we go. And, but thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
I'd like to say one last thing. He's great to work with. Mark is a great leader. He lets us do our thing. He's encouraging totally a collaboration. I mean, we're doing this. We were both in private practice. We could make more money in private practice. We both wanted. I mean, I moved here 4 years ago from Rhode Island because I wanted to do something more meaningful than design someone's house. And that's why we're here. We really do it. But Mark is the best person I've worked for. He's terrific. And everyone feels their voice is heard, and we still get it all done, which is terrific. Thank you for saying that about him.
Thank you, Richard. Any questions from the public about, come on right up.
Could you pull the microphone down? There you go.
Just state your name for us.
Amar,
Okay.
are you guys ever gonna take down the Hyannis West playground?
It's a good question. Let's get an answer.
Thank you for the question. So we work at the discretion and direction of the town council through the town manager. All of the projects that we work on are brought up through various departments, through a capital improvement plan, which we are actually assembling now for next year. We work for, the town manager, town councilor. So if that were a project that they brought up that they want us to do, we would carry that out. We kind of carry out the orders of the town fathers.
So there's no current plans right now.
No current plans right now. The schools tend to take care of their own playgrounds. When a school's handed over to us and we kind of own it, DPW then will take a look at what needs to be done there and put that forward.
So from what I understand, the next one that might come up would be the Marston's Mills Playground. I saw that on a list that Mark Mills.
We have a list of playgrounds. Marston's Mills is one of them. Just put together a capital improvement plan you will see for this coming year for actually taking a look at the siting is issued. Marston's Mills, old Marston's Mills School that was demolished.
The old school property.
There's an area there they're talking about putting a playground, and we have put together a proposal to do that.
Okay.
I just wonder about Hyannis. I think that's what the one at Veterans Park. Who?
No, he's talking about Hyannis West.
Oh,
At the
West,
school,
okay.
So, Amar, let me ask you a question. Are you hoping for a new playground in Hyannis?
If it's better, that's a good answer.
That's a very good answer. Thank you for participating in our meeting. This is part of your civic duty.
That's right. Wonderful question, young man. Thank you.
So I'm Amar's mom. We live here in Hyannis. I just bought a house here 3 years ago. I'm a local native Cape Codder. Our question is, what's the deal? When are we having playgrounds here for these guys? We have the school ones. There are parents whose kids are not in school, and during the school year, what playgrounds can they go to? You go to JFK Beach, and you're getting sand whipped at this time of year, or even in the winter time. Are there projects, in the works? And from the playgrounds that I see there are in the works, I mean, we just traveled to Ithaca, New York, and they have a wonderful community garden playground that was amazing, something I've never seen before. And that would be much less costly than one of these playgrounds that we're building. I mean, much less costly. If you guys look it up, that playground in Ithaca, it was a garden, a playground, butterfly garden. I mean, totally natural. They even had one space that they had old things. They had some tires in there, stuff that wasn't worn away, but the kids could just go, be kids in there, play in the mud if they wanted to, if their parents were gonna let them, you know, that kind of stuff. That would not cost the town and, you know, all this money that we have in this account, so much money, like one of these playgrounds with turf and all that stuff. Amar, enough.
So I would just recommend that you reach out to your town council member in Hyannis, and even reach out to the Hyannis Civic Association to get the ball rolling on conversations, because I'm sure you're not the only one. And it's something that I've expressed concern about. You know, our committee is here to help fund these projects. It's really going to come from the DPW and through your council member. So keep up the good work.
Thanks. Steve?
Yeah, just, thank you, Catherine. Just to respond to public comment, I mean, great public comment. Thank you for coming. Thank you for engaging. And, you know, this is, again, what we've heard many times about the village of Hyannis and the need for playgrounds, and why I think we should be very serious and talk about the possibility of a bond that includes some sort of a design element, just to take the pressure off Mark and his department a little bit. You know, still with Mark's leadership and guidance and the public input to come up with a plan, but, you know, maybe work concurrently with the other playground projects that we're working on, rather than having to wait until those are done to move on to the next one. What frustrates me is simply there's willingness from us to provide the funds, but turning that into action. So I think we should keep the conversation going, keep looking at the possibility of a bond, and seeing if we can partner with an outside designer to move things along and use the momentum that we're building to push it through.
Yep. Thank you.
And thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank you for your comment, though. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank everyone for their comments. No one, we see, your mom's not gonna let you come up. All right, well, with that, again, get any comments to us too. You can reach us at Community Preservation Committee at town.barnstable.ma.us email, and check our plan out at our website. Any other things to cover? If not, I would entertain a motion to vote, could close the public hearing and adjourn.
I make a motion to close the public hearing and adjourn.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all members in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you very much, folks, for coming. If you'd like to stay for our regular meeting,